I was desperately searching for a job, applying everywhere I could, but luck wasn't on my side. Despite earning a master's degree recently, the harsh reality of life left me no choice but to take whatever opportunity came my way. The financial struggles of my family haunted me every day. So when I heard about a driver's position with a surprisingly high salary, I reluctantly agreed to go for the interview, even though it was far beneath what I had envisioned for myself. The interview was conducted by an elderly woman, her age somewhere between 70 and 75. Her sharp eyes scanned me as I sat nervously in front of her. My heart raced with doubt. Should I even consider this job? But the circumstances back home didn't allow me to refuse. My mother worked tirelessly, taking odd jobs to make ends meet, and I couldn't bear to see her suffer anymore. What left me speechless was when the woman mentioned the salary. It was more than I had earned from 2 full-time jobs combined. She promised that if I performed well, not only would she increase my pay, but she would also allow me to stay in the servant quarters of her grand house. It was an offer too tempting to decline. I was raised in a small village where opportunities for education were limited, which is why I moved to the city for college. Living in a hostel, juggling my studies, and working odd jobs to support my mother, I barely made enough to send money home. My mother relied on that money to avoid begging for help. I had even taken a night shift job at a hotel, but no amount of effort seemed enough. This job, though not ideal, promised to change everything. The final decision came when I met her granddaughter, the girl I was to drive to and from college. She entered the room, and the moment I saw her, I froze. My eyes widened involuntarily, and a soft mashallah escaped my lips. Thankfully, no one heard it. She was stunning. Her snow-white complexion, piercing blue eyes, and chubby cheeks dimpled when she smiled. Her presence left me captivated, and I realized then and there that I wanted her. She became my obsession, the focus of my desires. It didn't matter that she was 10 to 15 years younger than me. All I knew was that being her driver meant staying close to her, and that was all I needed. As I stared, her grandmother caught me. Her scrutinizing gaze made my heart sink. I quickly averted my eyes, staring down at the luxurious carpet beneath my worn-out shoes. It was so soft that it felt like it could soothe the cracks in my heels. The woman handed me an envelope with an advance payment. It wasn't just my first salary. It was meant to ease my struggles so I could send money home without having to work 2 jobs. She had seen in my resume that I was overworked, and this gesture seemed thoughtful. I accepted it, feeling both grateful and uneasy. Her grandmother was busy discussing something with the manager, her back turned to us. I stole a quick glance at the girl sitting nearby, engrossed in her phone, her delicate fingers tapping lightly on the screen. My heart raced as I quickly averted my eyes, fearing her grandmother might catch me staring and dismiss me before I even started the job. A few moments later, her grandmother turned to me after finishing her conversation. She informed me that if I performed well as a driver, she might hire me as a personal bodyguard for her granddaughter. "There are many enemies in the city," she said sternly, her sharp gaze peering at me from under her glasses. "I won't risk my granddaughter's safety. She needs someone to protect her, someone I can trust." Without hesitation, I blurted out, "Yes, absolutely. I'm willing to take the job. Honestly, I'm not very skilled at driving, but I'd gladly serve as her bodyguard to ensure her safety. I won't let anyone harm her." Her piercing gaze stayed on me a moment longer. "Patience, young man," she said, her voice firm. "Why are you in such a hurry?" I felt exposed under her scrutiny, but I managed to nod respectfully. Her late husband had been a prominent politician, and as a result, their family had a long list of enemies. I knew the job would involve risks, even threats to my life. Yet all I could think about was the girl. Her beauty had ensnared me, clouding my judgment. It wasn't love, it was pure lust, an overwhelming hunger that consumed my thoughts. I had been battling these feelings for years. My time at the hostel, surrounded by married friends who often watched inappropriate videos, had warped my perspective. Despite my efforts to resist, I had developed an addiction that blurred the lines between right and wrong. The more I tried to escape, the deeper I sank. Now, standing in front of this girl, all those suppressed urges resurfaced. Her delicate features, innocent demeanor, and captivating beauty were enough to make anyone lose their senses. By the way, her grandmother interrupted my thoughts, you should move your belongings to the servant quarters. There's no need to stay at your hostel anymore. With that, she rose and walked away, leaving me momentarily stunned. Her sudden command caught me off guard, but once I processed her words, I felt a surge of excitement. I quickly made my way back to the hostel to pack. Humming to myself, I gathered my belongings when my friend Hadi stopped me. What's with the big smile? Did you win the lottery or something? He asked, suspiciously eyeing my enthusiasm. Sort of, I replied, trying to keep the conversation short. I got a job and it comes with a place to stay. I'm moving out. His curiosity deepened. A job? Just like that? And you're leaving the hostel overnight? Yes, I'll explain later, I said hurriedly, eager to leave. Right now I need to pack and send money home to my mother. Without waiting for more questions, I grabbed my bag and left, making my way to the grand mansion. The servant quarters assigned to me were surprisingly spacious. It was a beautifully maintained space, large enough to house 6 people comfortably. However, I was the only one living there. Surrounding the area were other quarters where the family's employees lived with their families. I, however, was alone, an arrangement I found both fortunate and convenient. The solitude would allow me to focus on my goal, getting closer to her. As I unpacked, I considered asking her grandmother for permission to bring my mother to live with me. But deep down, I knew it wasn't a genuine concern for my mother. I feared she might become an obstacle in my pursuit. No one, not even my family, could come between me and the girl. I was determined to have her, no matter what. The silence of the quarters was both unsettling and exhilarating. The night stretched ahead, full of possibilities. My desire burned brighter with every thought of her, and my resolve grew stronger. I wouldn't let anything or anyone stop me. She was so innocent that she couldn't even sense what I was doing or what I wanted to do. My mother had raised me with good values, but over the past 6 or 7 years, living with my friends had slowly changed me. Their influence led me to think like them, and I began to desire what they often talked about, relationships with women. Most of my friends were married, yet they still sought affairs and had little regard for loyalty. Our hostel was across from a girls' hostel, and my friends often spied on the girls there. Some of them even had girlfriends they met secretly at hotels. They openly shared stories of what they did, things that, in our culture, are reserved for after marriage. Listening to them, my perspective shifted. I stopped seeing these actions as wrong and started craving the same experiences for myself. It became my obsession to find a way to fulfill my desires, and when I saw her, I felt I had finally found my opportunity. The next morning at 8 a.m., I got ready and told the driver to bring the car around. He was still busy with breakfast, but I insisted. The young lady is ready for college, I said. Hurry up, we're getting late. As I was speaking, I saw her approaching in a red top and jeans. The sight of her left me spellbound. Her long hair cascaded down to her waist, shining in the morning sunlight. Her playful locks framed her face as she brushed them back while smiling and chatting on her phone. For a moment, I felt like the world around me stopped. Was this love or lust? I couldn't tell. Her beauty was captivating, her innocent charm disarming. Even her hair seemed capable of tempting any man with immoral thoughts. I was jolted back to reality when the driver nudged me, and I realized her grandmother was watching me from the terrace. Panicking, I quickly lowered my gaze and pretended to focus on the ground. I took her bag and opened the car door for her before we left for college. After dropping her off, I returned home and went to my quarters to rest. The previous night had been sleepless. I had spent hours planning how to get closer to her without her grandmother suspecting anything. I knew the risks. Her family was powerful and influential, and crossing them could cost me my life. But in that moment, I didn't care. I sent some money to my mother, who was delighted and asked where I had found such a well-paying job. Are you sure you're not involved in anything wrong? She asked. She always worried about me falling into bad company or doing something dishonorable in the city. Her concerns weighed on me, but my thoughts kept drifting back to the girl. She was so naive that she hugged me without hesitation, calling me uncle with innocent affection. She had no idea what I was thinking about her. One day after a successful test at college, She was so happy that she hugged me tightly. In that moment, I accidentally touched her inappropriately. She didn't notice, laughing and getting into the car while asking me to join her. From that day, I began finding excuses to touch her. It became my escape, something I couldn't go a day without. Her innocence blinded her to my intentions. She thought I treated her like a daughter, but I knew my thoughts were far from fatherly. When the driver took a few days off, I eagerly volunteered to take her to and from college. This new responsibility filled me with joy because it meant I could now execute the plans I had been crafting for the past month. Her grandmother had no idea that the guard she trusted with her granddaughter's safety was actually a threat to her honor. I was helpless. I didn't know why I was doing all this. My training never allowed me to do it, but I was forced by my emotions to do it. I had been looking for this opportunity for a long time, and today I got that opportunity. She started asking me to eat ice cream while coming from college. I parked the car in the parking lot and took her to the ice cream parlor. On the way back, where ice cream was on her face, I started laughing while wiping it with a tissue. She also started laughing, seeing me. For the first time, I touched her lips, and I felt like I couldn't live without them anymore. And I thought of following this plan today. I made her sit in the car and took the driving seat myself. I drove the car through the deserted streets and started driving it to the road leading to the village, away from the city, where she looked out of her mobile and looked out. "Uncle, where are you taking me? Our house is not this way." I said, "Son, this is a shortcut. Your grandmother said to bring her home from college today, and we are very late today." While eating ice cream, she was satisfied and started looking at her mobile again. I took 2 juice boxes from the road, mixed a narcotic drug in one of the juice, and gave it to her. She did not even know that there was something mixed in the juice. I drank my juice and started driving. After going to a deserted area a little far away, I made an excuse that the car broke down. The name of this innocent girl was Aisha. I told her, "Aisha, sit down, I will call the mechanic." She said, "I am feeling slightly dizzy. Something is happening to me. Please call Grandma quickly and send her in the car." I nodded yes and started acting like I was making a call while playing the mobile. After about 5 minutes, she had completely lost her senses. I smiled and made her lie down on the back seat of the car and checked the people in the car well and sat next to her. She looked very beautiful at that time, and I felt that today I was in paradise. I am going to do it. The attraction of her soft pink lips was so much that I could not control myself and leaned on her. As soon as I leaned down, my mobile vibrated loudly. It was a call from her grandmother. I quickly moved away in fear and got out of the car and started listening to the call. She was asking me the reason for being late. I told her that Bibi has ordered ice cream and we are at the ice cream parlor. "If you ask me, I will talk to you." She said, No, just come back quickly." I am getting nervous. Then I saw my plan flop, but I did not give up. This was happening only because my emotions had become so intense that I had overcome all fear. If it had been any other time, I would never have thought like this about a little girl. I quickly got into the car, locked it again, and sat near her. As I approached her, there was a distance of 3 to 4 inches between her and me. Then she got up and pushed me hard. "What are you doing, Uncle? You should be ashamed. I am your daughter's age. What made you think I was so stupid that I didn't know what good touch and bad touch were? I wanted to catch you red-handed so that I could complain to Grandma about you. And you don't know that my grandma is on call and she is listening to all this." "What did you think you would get away with?" she said angrily, and quickly picked up her bag and started to get out of the car. I don't know what happened to me at that time that I grabbed her from behind and started forcing her. After a while, the police siren started blaring, and I didn't even know when the police arrested me. I came to my senses only when they beat me badly in jail. Then all my emotions were like a wake, and I was very ashamed that what I had done was now I was not fit to show my face to anyone. Not only had I lost my job, I had also left my previous jobs of my own free will and had also left the hostel. Surely that woman will punish me severely. I heard the clicking of heels in my ears. Aisha and her old grandmother were standing in front of me. I raised my head and looked up so that I could see them. She was staring at me angrily. Her grandmother's PA quickly called the inspector. The inspector came running and stood in front of the old woman politely. "Yes, ma'am, it will be exactly as you said. I have trapped her in a drug and murder case. Now no lawyer will be able to get her out. She will either be hanged or be imprisoned for life. The inspector bowed his head and explained all the details. I was shocked as soon as I heard this. Now I will have to spend the rest of my life in jail for such a mistake. What will happen to my mother? Will she never be able to give her son back to her? She will not even know that I am in jail. I had left all my friends in the hostel of my own free will. There was no one who could tell my mother that her son was in jail. As soon as I regained consciousness, I quickly fell at the feet of the old woman. I am sorry, leave me alone. I have made a mistake. I will leave this city, or rather, the city. I will go to my village forever and never look back. I will not look at any woman with a dirty eye. I have an old mother. She will die without me. Who will tell her that her son is in jail? Please, God, have mercy on me. For the sake of your granddaughter, leave me alone. I will go away from here forever, and I will also apologize to your granddaughter in front of everyone. Please do not keep me here forever and ever. I beg you for my life. I started grumbling in front of this old woman, but she did not even touch me. Instead, she left and started giving some instructions to the inspector. I started looking at everyone in surprise. What had happened to me? My mother was right in saying that I would have to be careful with every step I took in this city. There are many people who are involved in wrongdoings here. They not only spoil themselves, but also spoil those they keep in their company. The company of wrong friends had brought me to this point today that I was about to be hanged. I started crying helplessly. Seeing me crying, the sub-inspector there felt sorry for me and told me that you have to call home. I nodded my head in yes and started calling my friend Amjad, who had been my friend since childhood and was living in Saudi Arabia. Only he could do something now. When I told him all the details, he was stunned that it was me who had never looked up at a girl, and I was accused of such a thing. How could this happen? He reassured me that everything was fine and he would take care of it. There was no need to worry. He would send one of his friends who would hire a lawyer. Maybe I would be able to help him. I could have escaped, otherwise I would never have recovered from the murder and drug cases they had filed against me. But he could have tried so hard that I would not be hanged, but rather imprisoned for a few years. He promised me that he would take care of my mother after me and would never tell her that her son would be sentenced to life imprisonment, due to which she would never be able to see her son. My friend was living in Saudi Arabia, due to which he could not come and solve my problem himself. He was also angry and was abusing me, but he did not leave me. Rather, he promised me that he would try his best to save me, but the inspector made such a strong case against me that I was sentenced to life imprisonment. My friend's efforts also failed. In fact, my mother also came to know what her son had done. On the day I was sentenced to life imprisonment, she came and slapped me with all her might and said that from today on, they will think that their son died in an accident. It is impossible for a son to be caught violating the honor of a girl. I was helplessly looking at my mother. My mistake was that I stayed in the hostel with boys who were at the forefront of such things. My mother used to explain to me every time, but because of my emotions, I made a very wrong decision, and now I had to suffer from this decision for the rest of my life. I understood only when this old woman told me that she was related to politics. I should have distanced myself from this house and should not have looked at the daughter of their house with such evil eyes. But I don't know what was in my heart that instead of getting her through the lawful way, I went towards the forbidden. I knew that perhaps I could not make her my wife, so I started looking at her with the wrong eyes and started thinking of wrong and illegal ways to get her. Even my friends from the hostel had a big hand in this. They used to explain to me on the phone all the time how I could get this girl. Perhaps it was not so much the fault of others, but rather my own. All this was happening because of my own unjust desires. My mother refused to accept me as her son, and the girl I tried to get had me locked up in jail forever. Perhaps this is the case with people like us who want to get what is lawful by unlawful means. Today I have been in jail for 10 years, but even today my conscience reproaches me every day. I wish I had not looked at this innocent girl with that eye. I would have been saved today. I would have been living a happy life with my mother as much as she gave me. If I had done that job all my life, my future generations could have lived comfortably. But in all this, it was not even my fault. It was also partly the fault of those people in our society who marry their children late, due to which they get involved in unlawful activities and even harm themselves. Everyone here is mistaking me, but partly the fault of my mother, my friends, and the old woman who I was looking for a young guard for the police station, and her granddaughter wore such clothes that any person's intentions would be ruined. But I was made the only one guilty, and I was imprisoned forever and ever. But I don't regret it. I regret that my mother refused to accept me as her son. Rather, I don't know where she would be, how she would be, whether she would be alive or not. She must not remember her son. Thinking about all this, tears started flowing from my eyes. I didn't even know when. I had a good greeting from the inspector. He often motivated me to prostrate before the Lord and ask for forgiveness for my sins. I was right. I have been punished for all the sins I have committed unknowingly in this world. Now I have to worry about my hereafter. After talking to the inspector, I went to take the Quran class with a smile. Life imprisonment in prison and those who were imprisoned for a longer period of time were taught all kinds of skills, so that they can go out and earn their livelihood through their skills and not use wrong methods to earn a living.